Palin, I think we're going to have to ask for directions. I don't know where I am.
Yeah.
I think I saw somebody in here. Sir, we're lost.
Well, come on
We
in
need
now.
some directions.
Maybe I can help
But
out
you
with that.
know, oh, wow. Look at this old trike. Is this yours?
It is. You know, funniest thing. Always had a thing for three-wheelers.
Wow. Me too. Can we be friends? Actually, here, let's hand this off to Palin. Actually, we already are friends. This is my
Wow.
good friend Pat Farnum. And this
Hi,
is
buddy.
his freshly restored 1986 Kawasaki Tecate. And that's about all I know.
Yeah, you know, so typically what I do here is I do like restorations. Started off as a hobby, and I got into it a little further and further as time went along. And this is something I've known about for about 20 years. It was here locally, and I was able to get my hands on it. It was in pretty rough shape, but here it is. This is the after.
So I have questions. So I'll be overlaying the pictures right now of what it looked like before. And from that point, when did you get it?
I've had this machine for about 2 years now.
Okay.
It's been a work in progress.
Were you working on it the whole time?
Not really. You know, I was actually in the process of building my shop, and I work full time actually in a power sports dealership myself. So this is kind of my free time. Well, a little bit there is at the end of the day.
Yep.
Goes into this thing, passion.
How long were you actively working on it to get it done? Because you're done. You're
Yeah,
finished.
you know, it's tough. You know, there's so much involved in this, from hunting down parts and conversations, which, by the way, you meet a lot of cool people along the way doing this sort of thing. I'm going to say there's probably about 150 hours of work to do this, and I start with a crankshaft in my hand and basically roll the machine around a track shaft.
We don't want you to get too far away because then you can't hear us. So you had it, and it was like what it was, 150 hours, but over the last year you've been working on it, the last 6 months?
More so the last year. You know, the first year of it, you're gathering parts, you know, crossing your T's, dotting your I's, getting everything together. And then, you know, the real push is, you know, probably the last 6 months. That's when things start getting bolted onto the frame and the motor has come together. And that's when the rewards really start happening.
Mhm.
Is, you know, after gathering the parts. And it's, to anybody else that does this can appreciate what I'm going to say here. It's kind of built in your head before it's even finished. So you're laying these parts out, stash them away, because you can't just leave them laying around. And so it's exciting. Yes, the last 6 months you're kind of putting it all together, and it comes together quickly.
Very cool. All right, okay, let me see that. So let's pick this thing apart, because I'm sure I can find some blemish. No, I can't.
It's loaded
But-
with them from my perspective, you know.
So I know some things you've told me over the years. Like I know you've got a special trick when you're restoring the fork lowers.
Yep.
Maybe tell us about that. Tell us some of the things you had to do to make
So-
this look what it...
I'm sure you'll see some before pictures here. Everything on this needed to have some type of, you know, repair done to it or refinishing. Forks, you know, typically any fork, you're going to start off with something that's pitted or gouged or, you know, damaged through the years, corroded. I strip it right down completely to every last part. I start with the lower leg here, and I'll put a glass bead finish on it. Once it's got a glass bead finish and it's uniform, I've sanded out any of the heavy gouges. I go into the parts wash over here, and you know that's the idea. You know, it's similar to wet sanding is having something wet. So I'll use a 3M or a Scotch Brite pad on there, and I will manually put that satin finish back into the fork legs. You know, it's a very tedious process, but once you get that finish in there, you know, clear coat it and then reassemble from there. They weren't very particular about it at the factory, so even on, you know, whether it be a Honda or a Kawasaki, you know, where this was all casted, you'll start to see the casting marks there. They didn't get into these spots.
Yeah.
You know, a polished fork is not really what it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
As far as other things on here, this is all original plastic with the exception of a few things. This is a Clark gas tank remanufactured. They do a really nice job as far as color matching and fitment with that.
Now, why didn't you use the original tank, Pat?
Well, unlike some of the Hondas, you can't really bring the color back to these. As the tank and the plastic gets stained, it's an impregnated color, and the Honda seems to be a little better. You can sand them and bring them back.
Yeah.
The Kawasaki, on the other hand, you know, this is what happens to the tank, and I've spent countless hours trying to bring them back, and they only get so good. So, you know, it's kind of,
Okay.
it's definitely a,
That's like, I would say that's like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle green.
yeah, almost
After-
like a camouflage, right? Good for hunting.
But these started out like that.
Yes, yes it did. Yep.
So just the gas
And
fumes.
this tank and this shroud were true to one another, believe it or not. This shroud came on this bike originally. This was able to be brought back through a series, you know, wet sanding and polishing.
And you did that yourself?
I did.
Wow.
I did. There's a lot of great videos online. There's guys on here that do this stuff. So again, with this community, you know, it's kind of just taking a page from everybody's book and kind of doing what you can with what you have.
And those are the original rears?
Those are new old stock
Okay.
rears that I was able to get from another member of one of the sites here.
Yeah.
They're getting harder to find, as we all know, but they are still out there. The seat was something that I had recovered.
And they have that stamping in the back.
They did, and that was one of the harder things to find in the past, and now they're readily available. The front fender was original as well. That's something I wet sanded and polished
Yeah.
out. The headlight is a repop. That's from our friend Greg Bolton.
Okay. And they're supposed to be notched out like that for the adjustment?
Correct, correct. A couple other things, you know, the cases, I glass bead those, bring them down to a raw finish. Paint and refinish those as well, every bearing, every piece. The bottle, that's another thing that's always a problem with these machines, is finding good bottles, and they're usually stained up and damaged, next to impossible to repair. So there's another fine lady, Liveway Swinehart, John's wife. She does those. You can see a before and an after of her work. Very nice work.
Perfect copy.
There's a lot of things on here that are a challenge to find. You know, there aren't many of the Kawasaki's out there. Tires, for example, were one of the hardest things to find. The tires took me almost a duration of the build, almost 2 years of looking to find them. And as luck would have it, they were on another machine by sheer luck.
What machine was that, Pat?
It was actually on a go-kart, believe it or not. Thumb through your local Craigslist. A friend of mine, Kevin Simpson, had sent me a message stating that he believed he had found the tires. And sure enough, he had sent me the link, and these wheels were on a go-kart. So after 2 years of looking for them,
So that's thinking outside the box.
you know, that's how it happens. That's how it happens.
Now, are these like Honda ones that are always taken off and...
That's something that's also hard to find. That's actually another reproduction as well. That
Oh,
was
okay.
Liveway Swinehart's toolbox. She does amazing work, you know, and if it weren't for the people in the community that do these things, you know, we'd have a problem.
This is just gorgeous, Pat.
I do everything in-house, the suspension, the motor work, everything. Even the plating is done here locally, a family member of mine. But I take the shocks right down to nothing. I start with a bare body, start refinishing them, new valves, seals,
So this is
bushing.
all they had for a swing arm?
So at this point right now, it's missing the guard that goes on the sprocket
Okay.
side. It would have had two separate pieces, unlike the one piece that Honda used. And I'm also missing a silencer. Those are the two components left to make this project a final piece. Very hard to find parts. So if anybody out there has a silencer for one of these laying around.
Just waiting for a home. How close to the original frame color is that? Is that like dead on?
You know,
I'm just curious.
the factory paint on all these would have been paint back then. This is powder coated. Painting is a very difficult thing for me to do. So the powder coating is something that I choose to do for a multitude of reasons. But they've done a very good job matching that color.
Super. And did these get broken? These are a rare thing, right? Or
Yeah, typically the air boxes are missing on these as well. It just so happened that this machine had the air box. I have built these in the past, and that was another challenge, locating the air boxes. It was one of the first things to remove when you race these.
Are these hard to find?
Those are actually replacements as well. Those are getting harder to find as well.
You've got a message. Super. What else? What else can we talk about this? So you've been through a lot, 150 hours.
Yeah, and again, you know, there's more to it than just what meets the eye. You know, when you start rebuilding the brake components, it's breaking the calipers right down to every last nut and bolt. Starting with a bare body, glass beading it, new seals, all new washers, brake pads, any of the pins and grommets. So it's a labor of love. There's sometimes that I'll spend an entire day just working on one component, whether it be the brake caliper or the master cylinder.
You must have fancy equipment to do all these magical things.
You know, it's funny you say that, you know, and that's something I've always tried to stress to people, is that you don't need a lot of fancy equipment to do this. You know, a lot of this stuff here, to be honest, I've got a basic Harbor Freight sandblast cabinet. I carry two different medias here. I use a coarse abrasive on the one cabinet for the heavier steel components, and then a glass bead on the other one for aluminum and that sort of thing. You know, that's where the finishes come from. Any good finish, you have to have a good base. So sandblasting your parts, inspecting them, cleaning them, that's number one.
You got a press over there in the corner.
Yeah. Originally, you know, I've only done a handful of restorations in this shop. This is something new to me. I used to have a pretty healthy collection of three-wheelers, but they have since left to build this shop. The majority of my restorations took place in a 14 by 16 shed.
Wow.
And that just goes to show that you don't need a shop to do those things.
You sent me some pictures of machines in that shed, so
Yeah, maybe we'll get some
I'll scour
pictures of
those,
that.
yeah.
Maybe we'll take a peek at that before you leave today. So yeah, a lot of it is just taking the time and getting down to business. What it really started with me was my son was born, and I would come home from work, and Mom and my son were in for the night, and I needed something to do. So I came out in the shop and I started working on things, and it kind of just grew from there. It gave me something to do at the end of the day. And you know, what used to be 10 o'clock at night turned into 1 o'clock in the morning many times.
Yep.
And then it almost became an addiction. These came along, three-wheelers came along much after, you know, I was really young when they hit the scene. So by the time I was old enough to buy and own them, they weren't very nice. A lot of them were beat up. So the only way to get a nice three-wheeler was to build your own. And that's where it all started. So I set out to build a really nice 250R, and I kind of fell in love with it there, and the rest was history. This is probably, I'm going to say, the 25th or 26th restoration that I've done. You may have seen some of my other builds out there. Black ATC 500R was probably the most commonly known of the ones that I've built.
Yeah, that's very popular.
The other ones seem to blend in, right? The 250Rs and 350Xs and stuff like that. But probably by far my most favorite to ride would be the 350X. I think Preston.
I would agree, yeah.
You know,
You said this is your fourth Tecate?
It is. You know, when it first started, they seemed at the time to be much easier to get parts for. This one was definitely by far the most challenging. There weren't many of these built.
Yeah.
I'm going to say mid-3000s if my memory serves me correctly.
Then the 87s are even
more scarce.
Yeah.
Yes, I don't even dare throw a number at that.
Yeah.
You know, it's
There's probably not even a comma.
exactly. So I can only imagine how many are left out there.
And let's address this so people won't blow up my comments. This is not for sale. It's already sold.
Yes.
You've taken payment.
Yes.
And that's the reason we're here when we're here, because it's not going to be here that much longer. So
You know,
we're just bragging on Pat Farnum today because
appreciate that.
he's so humble. He doesn't realize how good he is. He's one of those guys. Like, really? You think so? Yes.
I appreciate that. I'm truly humble.
Yes, Pat. I think so. So,
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
but this is my first time in your shop for any amount of time. I've dropped off a couple shocks because you do restorations on shocks, so I put them in there on my way to a family trip.
Yep.
And someday we're going to do a video on that.
Yes, I look forward to sharing with you guys some of these tips and tricks. Like I said, a lot of the stuff you can do right at home, and I'll be happy to share with everybody how to do that. I think it's something that, you know, can bring a lot more passion back to everybody.
Yeah. And upstairs, we took a little tour upstairs, but I'm not going to...
Oh, by all means.
Well, I don't want to show all your secrets just yet, but Pat's got a little office up there with a treasure trove of spare parts and very nice organization. But
organization is key, you know. I grew up, my career has been in the power sports business, so I've been a technician in the dealerships for a little over 20 years now, and I gotta say, organization, cleanliness is probably of utmost importance, especially in the dealership. You got multiple machines apart at a time, you gotta be able to step right back into those and get moving, you know, with ease. So implementing that at home, you know, again, for everybody out there, you know, that's a big part of this. If you're gonna take on any of this type of work, stay organized, stay clean. That's something anybody can do.
Yeah. Now I have a number of Farnums in my collection.
Yep.
So let's rehash those. We did a deal. I think our first deal was the big red for the 125M, 85 big red for an 86 125M. It was a challenge. We had a false start the one time because we discovered the tank had been lined with cream, and neither of us knew why. Because you had, all right, so the machines we're talking about was a very nice 86 125M, original everything, and you had even cleaned it, and it's probably would disgust you with...
Did you do a wheelie in your kitchen on that?
I have done a wheelie in my kitchen on that. That would be a good thing to overlay right now.
Jealous. I never got to do that. Maybe I'll come to your house and do a wheelie in your kitchen sometime.
So yes, I would like that. We could wheelie together.
Yeah.
Or you could, huh?
Do what?
Maybe.
I don't think so, Tim.
That's funny. You're the only person I've seen do a wheelie on a Fat Cat. I happened to catch that in some of my footage from the vintage show a year ago.
Yeah.
Because they're squirrely. They're dangerous. I'm surprised we're both here alive.
Yeah, I think we all got that urge, right? To try and wheelie anything we can. Yeah.
But back to this 125M. Super nice. The big red was really nice, but had some flaws.
Yep.
But we ended up working out a deal. You took that, and then you got a different big red.
Yep.
And made the one you got from me even nicer. You fixed everything that was wrong.
Yep.
Then you sold it to our mutual friend Toby.
Yep.
And then I bought it from Toby.
Yeah.
So it came back home.
Full circle.
So it was a boomerang bike for me. And I've got a number of Farnums through what I call the Toby acquisition. When I bought a lot of machines from him, I got an 86 250R that you had.
Yeah.
The 85 350X that looks really good until you try to start it.
Yeah.
Because
there's a long story behind that one.
The gentleman you were restoring it for didn't care if it ran. He just wanted it to look nice because it was going to be up above the showroom of the dealership.
It's supposed to get hung.
So it was displayed with that 500R.
Yep.
And a Tecate you did.
Another Tecate. A little Trail Buddy 50 Suzuki.
Yep. 200X. 86.
200X.
I owned that briefly.
Yep.
That was a catch and release program.
Yep. Yeah, there's quite a few out there. I want to say probably 6 or so were in that collection at a dealership in Kawasaki, New York, which Toby had acquired those at that time. And I think now you've still got the 86 250R and the 85 350X and the
125M. I think those are my only Farnums.
Yeah.
And I cherish them.
Oh, I appreciate that. If you ever need me to borrow them, by all means.
Yes, please come. Please come up.
I can definitely come and borrow those for you. Anybody, for that matter.
What do you think, Palin? You're staring at this Kawasaki pretty contently. All right, we're gonna take a pause break and regroup to make sure we've covered everything we need to cover. So this concludes our shop tour with master restoration expert Patrick Farnum. Off camera, he showed us what he hides in all of his cupboards, and it's just the pinnacle of organization. And that's why things look so amazing. It looks like nobody works here, yet a mint 86 Tecate 3 sits on the table. But as I hand this off to Palin, I want to thank you, Pat,
Thank
for
you.
having us over.
It's always a pleasure.
We've been talking for a long time off
Always
camera,
good
but
catching up.
yeah,
Always good catching
but
up.
you do amazing work. Pat isn't for hire at this time, but who knows what the future holds.
Maybe in the future, we're thinking about doing some things, and Preston and I had talked to possibly about doing maybe a couple of tutorials here and there, a little how-tos and how to do things like this right at home, and look forward to maybe getting together with that, and maybe we'll see you in the future.
Excellent. All right, thanks guys. We'll catch you next time.